Hi everyone. Around New Year's time, there's a lot of talk on the radio and media about what stocks or what funds to pick for the forthcoming year. I want to show you how you can use R to do some really simple stats that you just learn at your first course, that in your first couple of lectures, that you can just use that to help you kind of pick an investment fund. And a lot of people in investment management might use Excel. I'm going to show you how you can do the very simple kind of analysis really quick in R compared to X. Now, how do we kind of choose a fund based on stats? Well, we want a fund that it can perform well over short, medium, long term. So in other words, we want consistently good performing fund. Right? So we can use stats to kind of find that. Now you know that funds are split into various sectors like high yield, um, North American, small companies, global yields, and so on. Through all those sectors, I've picked the one that has given the best returns, and that is the UK smaller companies. And the ones I've managed to select are the ones among the UK kind of funds market. The data is readily available from all these kind of brokers. So I've loaded the data. Now I want to look at the data. I want to look at the first 5 observations. Okay, so this is the kind of thing you're going to see in kind of any of these kind of data sets. First column, name of the fund. Second one, you might have a price, but I've taken that out. So we've got a 3-month return, and these are percentages. One return over 1 year, return over 3 years. So we can see that the first entry, being Fidelity UK Smaller Companies, that fund delivered over the 3 months about 9.4%. Over 1 year, it's delivered about 43%, and year 3, 0, because it wasn't operating then. You'll be interested to know that at the time of doing it, we are now just after Christmas 2012. Okay, first I want to kind of rename the columns to make it more sensible, because at the moment we've got fund M3, Y1, Y3. Okay, yeah, they're more sensible, but because I've done that already. I did it using this command. Okay, then I entered. What's the number of funds in this sector, the UK smaller companies? I do look at the length command, length of, say, number of funds, 72. So 72 funds in this sector. Next, recalling basic stats, we want to look at charts. Charts give us a lot of information. So let's just set up the chart screen. And now I'm going to plot the returns over 3 months, 1 year, and over 3 years for this sector. I do this using the hist command. All these commands are very basic commands, they're stuff that I've done already in previous videos. Okay, and this is what we have. So we have 3 months, 1 year, and 3 years. So over 3 months you can see that most of the returns, most of these 72 companies delivering returns between 4 and 6%. Over 1 year you're delivering slightly above 20%. Over 3 years around 50%. Notice that this guy here and this guy here is what we call the returns are not symmetrical. It's more weighted towards the higher end of the returns. It's what we call positive skew. Sorry, not positive skew, negative skew, sorry. This is also a negative skew. So again, the picture clearly shows in all three that the returns are on the higher end. And a few of the companies you don't want to be any of with these funds delivering much lower returns compared to the overall sector over a given time period. Okay, so that's not, there's nothing really hard to understand there because it's just pictures. We can kind of see what they are, and we kind of want to see where we want to be. We want to be over here, or down the right far end where the high returns are. So we want to kind of find those funds that are giving us those kinds of returns. Just to get hold of the figures, the mean returns, we can call up the mean returns for each of those pictures, and this is what we get. So the mean return, if we look at this chart again, mean return, if we had to guess, over 3 months is around, I said 4%, so the actual figure is 5%. Over 1 year, the mean return of the sector is 22, so percent, which is around here, and over 3 years, it's around 50%. That figure's actually at 41%. Along with the mean, I've given standard deviation, which measures the risk. So the larger the value of the standard deviation relative to the mean, that means the greater the risk. Now, something I'll just say is that, okay, people are just comfortable and not comfortable with the notion of mean being average. But we know that when you've got skewed data, the better measure of the middle value is not the mean, but the median. Okay, but I'm going to just miss that out, although I have it in the code if you're interested, and the code's going to be on the website and you can run that through. It's better to look at the median and then for the spread report not the standard deviation but the interquartile range, which gives similar information. Okay, so out of the 72 funds, we want to narrow it down because, you know, it's out of 72, we're only picking 2 or 3 out of the 72. It's going to be quite a thing to do. We'll kind of shortlist it. So how can we shortlist it? Well, note that some funds that can perform well over some periods, like over 3 months, might perform poorly over overall 3 years. So we want something that performs consistently well over all these periods we're looking at. So we want to kind of extract, we need to extract from this set the better performers. How we're going to do this? We're going to grab hold of that data set and pull out a subset of that data where I'm going to choose year 1 is bigger than 25% return. And I got that figure because I actually calculated the median for the year 1. So median turns out to be 25, not 22. And for year 3, the median comes out to be 50%, not 41%. And that's the reason I picked out those figures, but you know, you can play with those numbers if you want to kind of get a much smaller shortlist. You'd be more stringent on these, you'd make these figures higher. So if you think about it, over 1 year, if you're getting it over 25%, that's pretty decent return compared to what you get in a bank. So that'll do. So we'll enter, and then we want to see what's actually what are the members now of this data set. You know, how many companies satisfy this condition. So DAT2, here you go. So if we just scroll down for each of these companies, over 1 year it's all over 25, and over 3 years it's all over 50. I'm not sure whether this is easy or quick to do in Excel, but in R it's very quick to extract. Okay, well, how many companies are there involved here? Length of the data of the fund here, 19. So 19 out of the 72 companies satisfy our kind of condition. We can calculate that as a proportion. 19 divided by 72. It's about 26% of these funds in the sector kind of performing, satisfying the conditions that we've placed. In other words, around a quarter. That kind of means that if we just closed our eyes and stuck our hand in a box with a balls labelled with each of these names of these companies, we've got a quarter chance of picking one that's going to do this well. What's the mean return over 1 and 3 year period of this reduced data set of these 19 companies? We see that it's much higher. Over 1 year, delivery is 31%, over 3 years, 69%. Again, we're better reporting medians, and means by themselves mean nothing really without the standard deviation. Okay, now out of this 19, I want to find the real best performers. Okay, I mean, in Excel you could like filter the data by 1 year, right, or 3 years from ascending to descending order, so you get the best one first. But the thing is that we want them performing consistently. Whatever fund we choose, we want them to perform consistently well over these periods. So we want to filter not just by 1 year, but by both years here, year 1 and year 3 performance. How might we do that? A nice graphical picture that I can think of straight away is a scatter plot. So we'll have on the, let's have a look. So here you go. So what we have, and we can tidy this up obviously, but what we have here is on the x-axis the returns over 1 year, and on the y-axis the return over 3 years. So where do we want to be on this picture if we had to pick a fund? The best performing fund is obviously up here in the top right, because over 1 year that delivers a return of over 38%, and over 3 years it's delivering a return of 85%. This fund down here is performed well over 1 year, but not over 3 years compared to its peers. Over 1 year it's given us a return of around just over 36%, but over 3 years, I say but it's quite good, isn't it still? It's a return of say over 50%, between 50 and 55, so it's more close to 50. But what we can see from the numbers we got here is that the mean over 1 year of these 19 funds is 31%, so it's around here for 1 year, and over 3 years it's 69%, so the typical fund is performing around here where I'm pointing. So you've got some performing better, that's to the right, and then less better to the left. So hopefully you can see why this graph is much better than using a filter command in Excel, because just looking at this graph we can just pick out immediately the best performer over all periods we're looking at here, being 1 and 3 years, because I missed out the 3 months. Okay, 1 and 3 years right there. Now we'd like to know what these companies are, so in R we can actually label each of these companies, put labels by them. Okay, we use the calibrate library, and the command is text xy. Okay, and then this is what we have. Alright, if you look at this, it's a bit of a mess, because why? Because these names are really rather long, so they can't all fit on the screen, and they get in each other's way, and that's why some of these are not in there, because it's just off the screen. So is there another way to do that? Yes. We're going to replot it, and then like that. Let's see. Okay, we've plotted it, and then we want to kind of be able to click on the chart, and it'll give us identify which fund it is. So we do that using the identify command. And now we've got a little cross here. We place our cross by the fund that we want to know name of. So put that's fund 1, that's fund 2. Oh, it just happens to be in order. Fund 3. That's because I arranged the data in ascending order before. Fund 4, fund 5. 7. Okay, now how about what's the worst performing fund around here? So over 1 year, we're talking about this guy. What is this guy anyway? Let's have a look. And let's pick this guy just because his bottom left, so overall over 1 and 3 years he's not doing as well as the others. Right, to find the name of these companies, which are numbered here, we'll call on the data and we'll tell it to write out the details of the funds that correspond to these numbers. Here you go. Let's put this. So the best performing fund here is, grab this. Okay, this is better. Is 1, which gave us a return over 1 year of over 38% and over 3 years of over 85%, and that is this one here. I forget these numbers, the numbers are from the original data set. So this is the first one. Over 1 year it's actually 39%, over 3 years it's 87%. Casanova, God, they can 1, 2, 3, 4, they take top 4 places, don't they? And then the one which, let's look at the one down here, so 36% over 1 year. Okay, so that's this one, River and Mercantile. And the worst performing one of this bunch, 17, that's BlackRock, UK small companies. But still, if you look at the over returns over 1 and 3 years, that's a lot better than, in fact, a lot better than a lot of the funds in the other sectors. Now, they always say when they give you financial advice that be careful, because past performance may not kind of mean that you're going to get decent future performance. But if we look at this over 1 and 3 years, you can kind of get an idea of how consistent these funds are performing. And so all I've done here in this so-called analysis isn't really kind of rocket science exactly, is it? It's just basic stats you've learned in the first couple of lectures at university, and then I've just thrown in some of the graphs. This scatter plot is very handy in kind of pulling out the consistent estimators over more than one period. Okay, so hope you enjoyed that one.